How's it, everybody? Welcome back to the Nomasburg region. Sanctum Gamer here, and today we kick off the main or the first real expansion to the residential areas around this downtown space. So today's focus is going to be around a couple of commercial spots here and there, a couple of places for a couple of amenities, and then we will build the main area where apartments are going to be in this town. I don't plan on having a lot of apartments here like would be the case in a big city, but we'll have a designated spot where we are going to have apartments. And then I also wanted to make a couple of it look like this under construction and so on, but we'll talk about that when we get to the run. But this area, we started off with a couple of commercial spots, and I generally like to use commercial spots as a buffer between my residential area and my industrial areas. And then because this is meant to be a small town, nothing too big, I am going to have a very big mix of low density residential areas as well as medium density apartments, all just kind of mushed together as one. So right behind this commercial spot, we have these small little flats that sit there. Well, here in South Africa, we call them flats. I don't know if anybody noticed. I actually messed up with my camera a bit there, zooming in and out. I didn't even realize that as I was placing something, my finger was scrolling and things were zooming in and out. Anyway, that was a bummer. But like I was saying, I plan on having low density apartments right next to slightly medium density ones. Did I say low density apartments? Low density housing. So these standalone family ones. And then right next to it or right behind them, you've got this apartment block, and then you have those apartments that sit just to the side there. And I want to mix and match these family homes and these apartments. I think it gives a nice variety to the place. So where I stay, there is quite a lot of this mix mashing that is happening, and so I thought I would try and capture some of that in this town. And then what's been missing up until this point is some amenities. So in this spot right in the middle, sitting between the residential areas and residential areas to the right there, and then commercial to the left, we've got these amenities that are just grouped in there. So over here we're putting down a police station with this big parking lot in the back, but this big parking lot is a shared parking lot between the police station and this medical facility that we've just put down. The idea here is that this medical facility at least has undergone some kind of renovation, so it's looking a bit more modern, it's multi-storied. And because this is the main town of the region, I wanted this to look like it's the hospital to go to, for like major areas. If you see in a lot of sort of regions or small counties, if you're in the US, whatever you want to call it, you generally find a whole lot of small towns, and in those small towns there will be clinics and stuff like that, and then there will tend to be a slightly bigger town than all the others, and that town will generally have a slightly more advanced set of amenities like police stations, like medical health, and so on. So that's what this is meant to be. This town, because it's the biggest of all the ones in this area, it's got the better developed medical facility. So you got this big hospital that's there, and then you've also got the police station that's also sitting right there. And then moving on from there, at the base of this church, so this Orthodox Church of Saint Theoroa, we're going to start blending into the apartment spaces. So along the avenue, of course, avenues generally tend to be very heavy duty roads. There's usually a lot of traffic that's going on there, and this is the main avenue that's running through this town. So around here, I wanted to make it look like it was a bit developed. We've got a central spot for people in the town that they can go and hang out. So I put down the soccer pitch as well as these tennis courts. Now this soccer pitch, it's an asset that I put down, but I didn't quite like the way it looked. So I went back to it later on. Unfortunately, I did it off camera, where I removed it and I made it a makeshift or a handmade soccer field. So I get rid of this asset and I place down the 2 goalposts by myself. I use a couple of dirt decals to make the pitch look a little bit more worn down, and then I put people park generators on it to get people coming in. So don't fall in love with that asset, that football asset that's actually going to disappear. I think the handmade one looks a lot better and fits in better with a theme than this one that's got all these stands and so on. The stands just made it look too planned and too formal, something that I thought was too much for the space. But sitting right next to it is just a little park with a small little cafe there that people can get a coffee or a small sandwich or something to eat. But the idea is to just have this park that's sitting in the middle there that people can go to and chill. And then along the avenue, like I said, because the expectation is that this area will see a lot of traffic, I've got these commercial spots that are sort of sitting around the entire place. But again, this is not meant to be like some big massive mall. That is what we built a couple of episodes ago. That's closer to the real yard. But then along here is just will be a bunch of smaller commercial spots that just line the entire road basically. And of course, keeping up the sort of dilapidated look behind the actual malls, I placed down a lot of decals, a lot of crates, a lot of these what's this thing, cracked pavements thing, just to make it look a little more old school. And then right in between there, I've got this factory that sits there. So the idea is there was an old factory that kind of occupied the spot at some point, and as the town was growing and expanding with all these commercial spots popping up, this one remained, either because it served something that was pretty useful to the commercial spaces or to the town as a whole, or the owner they just didn't sell. Whichever one is, it seems to make more sense. And then we just have the spots there in the middle that is just overgrown. So you can imagine there might have been something there at some point which is now gone, and that whole area has just completely gone out of control. And then I put this green space right in front of the church. I wanted there to be at least some small buffer between the church and where the actual apartments start. So there's the apartments that we started putting down towards that top there, and a fire station. I wanted this fire station to really sit sort of central again to the entire town. I'm trying to avoid putting another one. I want to see how that's going to go, how well this one will serve. But given the size of this town, I think it would be unrealistic to have multiple fire stations just lining everywhere. So I wanted there to be one main fire station, the same way I wanted there to be one main hospital just sitting there. And this is the one that will basically cater for the whole town. So I'm hoping that it's going to work and it's actually going to be able to handle all the fires that are going to come up, but we'll see. If it doesn't do that, then we'll put a smaller one somewhere, probably clip it into something so that it's not so obvious that it's a fire station. And then again, at the back here, we've got a little park that sits over there where people go and they chill, and more of these apartments sitting towards the right. Originally, I had wanted this entire space to be like one big park that is sitting in the middle of this town, but I changed my mind and decided to put a bit more apartments and so on. I wanted the population of this region to go up a bit, considering how much we've been building. Still sitting under 20,000 it seems very low. So I wanted to get the population up a bit, and that's why I've got a few more apartments in place, replacing the idea of having a park with them. And then we'll continue these apartment builds all the way up to this avenue, so where this tram track is running. But this is where now I wanted to make it look like some of these are under construction. So I purposely chose to use these modern apartments, or at least these modern looking apartments, and then using these eclectic, I think it's the eclectic assets, the eclectic, American eclectic. The level 1 houses all look like they're under construction. So I placed a couple of them down, used some construction props, and then changed their colors a bit. And I think in the end, when combined well, it looks like it's a block of apartments that's still coming up. And that's a look that I wanted to get for this specific area. So some construction company has come, they've bought out a lot of this land, and they now basically building a whole bunch of apartments. I think what's it called? Is it gentrification? I think that's the word. I might be wrong. But at some point, you can imagine this whole area was probably just residential or old dilapidated houses, and they've all been bought up. The apartment blocks that we're building there at the top now is one that is complete. It's been made to look, fairly decent, with the basketball courts there in the back. And then some other ones have now been bought and they are under construction. And then blocked into all of them is this commercial space. This commercial space basically was there or has been added, but you just have this mix of residential and commercial, and all of that is just happening here. So the tram track also running through here is actually going to be great, because it's going to bring a lot of people to this area, which will bring this entire space to life. So the main focus of this really was to try and see if I can get my population up just a little bit, and then mix up the apartment builds together with some low density houses here and there. I don't think we put any more we're going to put down some low density here as well. So we have more of these apartment styles. I'm trying to mix up the apartment styles. I made a promise that I'm going to try and use different assets and try and get a bit more variety in the look of the residential areas. So that's definitely what I'm doing. But beyond the avenue that we are working on now, so towards the bottom of the screen, it's going to be mainly low density houses. So these type of houses that we're putting down. This area is where they're being bought out and being replaced by apartments, but we will still have the massive low density residential sprawl that will still sit between this area and the actual river. But we'll add a couple more amenities, especially along the riverside, like maybe parks. What's this thing? I want to put an amusement park somewhere there as well. So we're going to see how we're going to mix it all together nicely. And then this area, again, continuing with the apartments under construction type of look. I wanted that to also be like a big part of this specific area. I'm not sure if I'll do more, probably will, but we'll see how it goes. But at least for the center part of this town, I think this look is really something that I wanted. But then this specific spot, I wanted to make it look like the construction had started, and at some point or the other, things kind of slowed down. So it's not basically happening as quickly as one would have expected. So even though the one towards the top of the screen, the previous one that we built, is all done and so on, over here things have been left a little too long, and now you have all this grass that is growing through every single thing. So this specific construction spot has been here for a while. Maybe the company that was constructing basically ran out of money or whatever. So by placing all those construction props down, putting all the grass, all those decals, I think it captured that look of a place that basically has seen better days, and I guess they're just waiting to get more money before they can continue with the construction. And then here, old factory, again, mixing it all up, keeping the old factory in, keeping that history of this town, that this area, something was happening here, but whoever was here has moved out, and the whole place is now overgrown. again, this is the type of place that some construction company would come, they would buy out, and then they would convert this either into a block of apartments or a shopping mall or whatever the case may be. And then lastly, having some more commercial spaces here. Between here and towards the right, I'm going to have another cluster of commercial space. And this really is that separation that's going to exist between the low density residential areas that are going to sit towards the top of the screen on the other side of the avenue, and the heavily industrial area towards the rail yard. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This entire space is a nice big commercial zone. I think the blend from commercial to residential, I think it's going to look pretty good. I think I'm trying to get it as natural looking as possible whilst maintaining as much of the history that I'm trying to capture with this town. So yeah, that's it everybody. I think that's it for this episode. Videos from me are going to be a bit scarce for the next couple of weeks. I do apologize, but please do bear with me. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and I hope to catch you all in the next one. Keep safe, and cheers everybody.